Hey, again on the AsyncAPI public meeting. We have here me as a host, and I'm going to run the meeting. Fran, not sure if he'll make it for the whole meeting, but anyway, I did not expect that Fran will be able to join, so it's good to see you, Fran, anyway. And we have Colin, Marc, and
maybe you should explain. I'm on holidays. I'm supposed to be on holidays. That's why.
I'm not going to explain you should explain yourself.
I wasn't expecting Fran to join. Like he doesn't care about the meetings. He said, no, I'm supposed to be on holidays. That's why.
But yeah,
we
whatever
we went over this like was a couple weeks ago, right? That your life is just async API, right? So what do you need to do on holiday?
I anyway would not call it this week that he's now doing a holiday anyway, because there's just not much of resting. But yeah.
I need to apologize in advance. I'm going to have to drop off in 30 minutes, but I'll attend as much of the meeting as I can.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And we also had Mohammed that also joined in the past. So we have Colin, Marc, and Mohammed. So thanks guys a lot for joining. So before I'm going to jump into agenda, like you, Colin, you said that you don't have time for the whole meeting. So any of you have something that would like to talk about before I jump into the usual agenda that you would like to talk about it now, in case the other topics are taking too long? No, I take it as a no, at least. Silence is always good. So let me then share the screen. Can you confirm that you can see it? Oh, perfecto. So there are just two items today. The first one is the give you a heads up on the status of the generator 1.0 release and also the JavaScript parser 1.0 release. So the generator, we already breached release candidate number 4, and it did not get any updates so far. So it looks like it's stable. There's still this one issue here, but there were no objections for us to drop it after the investigation I did here. So I will just simply, we know that we'll not add this types generation before 1.0. So I will just, yeah, remove it from this milestone. So as you can see, basically the generator could be released already, but and we already checked it with the GitHub action, with the of AsyncAPI, with the with hub AsyncAPI.io, all works well. But now what I'm working on is making sure that because we also want to make JavaScript parser stable. So I'm now fully focused on parser to make sure that to complete all the tasks that could possibly cause some breaking changes. So we don't end up with 2.0 too quickly. And generator is dependent on JavaScript parser a lot. So there's a milestone for JavaScript parser. So most of all the issues are started already. So this one is already, there's already PR waiting for review. And this one depends on the previous one, because it's there are some manual validations and that were not in the parser in the past. So before we can jump into task number 10, we first need to have merged 24 merged to make sure that I do it properly and I can continue doing it for the other validations. The MIME types, the PR is already opened. I worked on it today, and that's already, this task is a proof that it's good not to release generator 1.0 yet, because this one 47, it's going to introduce a breaking change into parser, because we change away the custom parsers OpenAPI or for Avrov or for whatever, the way of registering those parsers changes. And the last two, there are some open questions to this one. And the recursive messages, that's another topic on the agenda, but yeah, that's also in a progressing discussion. So we're pretty active here, I would say, maybe 2 weeks, and we should be done. And the flow will be that first we will release parser 1.0 and then generator 1.0. Any questions to? So yeah, but basically to summarize, that's the main focus now. So most of the things, most of the other things, I'm simply ignoring to make sure that we complete them soon. And yeah, circular refs. I've put it on the agenda because that's I think it's interesting discussion, and I'm not so opinionated to have strong opinion in this topic. But basically, what is it about is that now at the moment when you drop in a spec that has some schemas with circular references, then there's an error because there's the maximum call stack size exceeded message goes in because we resolve the references. So so for example, the function that we go through all the schemas recursively to assign the anonymous IDs for schemas, it just never stops working. And then we have a error in the parser that, of course, then enters up in the generator. So there were some investigations I did in the dependency that we're using for parsing references, and to my knowledge about these dependencies, there's nothing that we can no option that we can just take and use. And we simply need to discuss and agree how we should resolve those circular dependencies. If we should just simply ignore them, but then it means that the refs will stay, and we need to somehow come up with a solution how we will handle them in the parser, how they will end up later on in the generator, in the AsyncAPI document, because otherwise the templates will fail because they don't know what to do with the ref fields. And the other option is, and I think I saw it in Swagger or some other tool, that people basically make sure that whenever the circular dependency is discovered, it's marked in a string that a particular field it's a circular dependency, a circular reference, and that's it. But the rest of the object is resolved and it's returned as a object in the schema, which works well and will work well in the templates. But that's a custom solution that we would have to do, and I'm not sure if it's good, because for documentation it's perfect because that's what I saw, and I think it's the best approach to just reference as much as we can, and then those circular references, the fields that have circular reference, just mark them with a string description that it's a circular. But I'm not sure how it's with the code generation. So that's pretty open question for me. Like, if I'm generating code for any application, what would I expect in those, how to treat those circular references? And yeah, I'm super open to any opinions.
I think there will be no problem in code generation because as far as I know, I think every programming language has structures for recursive, or ways to define recursive structures, right? So we should be fine there. We just probably need to do what you said. It's like we deref only the first time and mark it as circular somehow. I don't know how yet, but next time the parser is gonna dereference the $ref, right? It detects that it's being already it's marked as circular, and it will stop there. Like, okay, I'm not gonna do it again because I already did it, right? So yeah, we should have a way of stopping somewhere, right? Some people say that I've had this conversation before with OpenAPI, and because yeah, it's the same problem. So, and some people say that okay, so I'm gonna dereference up to 4 levels, for instance. You know, I'm gonna dereference resolve the references 4 levels deep only. So you never enter the endless loop. But yeah, why 4 times and not 5 and not 3? You know, is it like a random number? So yeah, I will probably go for a more reasonable or yeah, more reasonable solution. Like, okay, we do it this way because of this and that, right? And that's what people or tooling creators can expect, and they will have to do. You know, it's like if you receive a field with $ref plus the circular true plus some other information, it means that if you want to do something there, you'll have to do it yourself, right? So yeah, we will not provide any value there other than just marking it, because we don't know what you're gonna do with the circular reference, right? For documentation, like you just said, like for documentation, it might be you might just mark it as circular and just point the link to the definition of the structure somewhere, or yeah, just mark it in the UI. But for code generation in Java, you will do it one way, in Node.js another way, or in TypeScript in this case, you will do it another way. So yeah, and go in a different way. So we cannot help other than just informing the tooling creator that this reference is circular. And here you have the value resolved, or yeah, more than the value resolved, I would say that here you have where to look at in the current document. Where can you find this value already? Like in the example that you have there, sorry, I forgot its name. So not this one, on the example that there is on the issue.
Yeah.
The first one, for instance, the first one.
Which you mean the example from the description, or?
Yeah, from the description, exactly. So this one, for instance, the first one is component schemas recursive, but we are already in recursive, right? So yeah, we should have a way, like I don't know, just say where you can find this structure, which is already in the document. In the case of the commented use case, it's the same thing. It's not. It's 1 level deep because it's a property, but same thing is you should have the recursive data structure somewhere in the document, or somewhere, if not in the document, at least somewhere in the list of schemas that the parser is going to give you back. And why am I trying to skip saying that it's going to be already defined on the document? It's because this example has components, schemas, and then you see recursive on the definition, right? On the example. but this definition might be in another file, right? And then the recursive definition might be in a third different file. So you can't assume that it's going to be on the AsyncAPI file, on the initial AsyncAPI file, right? And but the information that the parser gives you as a tooling creator, right? The information that the parser gives you is like, for instance, we have a function. I think it's called all schemas, something like this, right? In this list of schemas, we have all the schemas identified by an ID, whatever it is. So maybe when it's resolving the $ref, we can put some information there. We can add some information there, like, hey, in the list of schemas that you're gonna receive when resolving this, you can find this recursive, which is I mean the object called recursive in this case, right? And you can find it on the list behind this ID, whatever ID that it's generated, or the recursive literally, right? ID. So I don't know if I'm explaining myself. You know,
no, that's fine. It's just the matter of making sure also that the information that we provide, it's easy to parse, right? And
yeah,
in
exactly.
the template you can interpret it. Yeah.
Exactly. So my point is this: it's like, let's not, for instance, let's not assume that the reference is going to be on the same document. So let's not use JSON pointers. Like in this case, JSON pointers starting with the hashtag, with a pound symbol, right? Because the reference might not be there, right? And also the recursive the recursive structure might happen involving 3, 4, 5 different files. So and that's very possible. The moment you start sharing common objects across your company, like a way to define something, then this object is a way to define this thing plus something else. Then this other object is these two things combined plus a third field. And the moment you start playing with this, it's easy to make recursive structures involving 3, 4, or even more files, right? So yeah. So anyway, the thing is that whatever information we put on the in this case on the JavaScript object that we return to the object to the user, it will be a common custom way that we use to make reference to this recursive object, right? And not assuming that it's going to be defined there on the components schemas, right? Because it might not be there. That's why I wanted to make it clear. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar already to what. So you can you see it? Can you see this? So that's what I'm getting when I was doing the research. So basically in JavaScript, JSON stringify does not support circular references, and there's a library that does it. And what this library is doing, it's the field that introduces circular references. That's what it gets. So what value it gets. So it's pretty easy to parse. I would have to check how it deals with the as you said, with those circular references across files. But as you can see here, that should be already super useful and easy to parse, right? So you get a info that it's circular and also clear information. Or
sorry, also be aware of the different hops that can be in circular references, right? Because in this case, what we're doing is the recursive object is defining a field that has a reference to recursive, right? So it's a single hop, let's say. But you might have multiple hops. Let's say it's like more complex structures. Like one is making a reference to another one, and then it's making a reference to another one, and then from here it closes the loop. Right? So it's still circular, and yeah, and these are the ones that are the most difficult to detect usually, because these ones are easy. You spot it at first sight, but the ones having multiple hops, it's usually the most, and across files, of course, are the most difficult to spot usually. So yeah, I will take this into account as well and probably add some tests.
Yeah, we will have to have really good tests here. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, because then we can easily mess up in the future.
Yeah. Okay, anyone wants to add something? Is it because of JavaScript?
Yeah, one thing that I would like to add for those non-JavaScript developers, I'm not looking at you, Mark. So cool thing here is that because we are working with a very dynamic language, like it's JavaScript, let's call it dynamic, right? So the cool thing here is that we are learning a lot about the problems that you can find while parsing this kind of documents. So yeah, all these learnings will be applied to Java parser, Go parser, and all these parsers in the future. So we're gonna have the same problem basically. That's what independently.
Yeah, we're gonna solve it only once. Yeah.
We're gonna have the same problem in different parsers, so independently of the language. So, yeah. And it doesn't have anything to do with types in this case. So yeah.
Okay, so that's it if it comes to the agenda. So anyone has some questions, topics to handle?
Hi, Lucas.
Hey.
Last meeting, we talked about the Java parsers, right? That I told that we can contribute and we can create a Java parser. For that, I think Fran told that he will talk with some other guys to check whether they already started working on the Java parser.
Yeah, Fran, you were supposed to talk with MuleSoft, I think.
Yes, and I have something. Let me just find it here because so they're gonna open source it soon. That's all I know. But there is some. Oops, GitHub has changed. Only a few days on holidays, and they already did that redesign. Let me find something.
It was also down in the evening, so I think they are now working as bank. Whenever they're changing something in GitHub, they have to switch it off.
They were changing the design, and yeah, it went off.
Modern.
So where is it? So, oh gosh.
You're gonna share something? Should I already stop sharing and give you a host?
No. I'm trying to find an issue or pull request.
I'm on. Anyway, gonna stop sharing.
So it's somehow related, not strictly related. I'm gonna share this and yeah, basically this one and this one. So these two issues were actually the result of our conversation this day, like 2 weeks ago, I think. And so they're gonna work on open sourcing this, and they are now working on making the parser, the Java parser they created, 100% compliant. That's why you see one of the issues is about test cases, And I think once they reach this level, they will open source it. But honestly, that's all I can say. Like it's just it's all in their hands. It will be great to have probably Jonathan Stojkovic or someone else from the team to join one of these calls one day. So Jonathan,
can you, sorry, Fran, can you explain what it is? Like maybe a 2-minute explanation of what they're going to open source?
Yes, sorry. So this project, this repo is about, it's a TCK, so it's Test Compatibility Kit, right? And the reason I'm pointing there, it's because this is a project MuleSoft contributed, right? And it's a way to test the parsers, right? So test the compliance of the parsers, right? So we're now so far testing our parser and their parser in this project, and
Okay.
you can see some details like percentages on the compliance and all this stuff, right? And the thing here is that they haven't open sourced the the parser yet, as far as I know. So yeah, so it will be great to have them someday and explain how to use it or when they're planning to release it and open source it. So yeah, and
that'd be cool.
Yeah, because that's going to work on TypeScript and Java, as far as sorry, not Java, Scala, but yeah, any JVM language will be compatible. So.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's all I know. That's all I know about this. The information I had from them is they're gonna open source it. But don't know when exactly, to be honest. I hope soon. So yeah. So actually, it will be great that they open source it even before it's perfect. Let's say 100% compliant, so we can all help there. Right? So. Yeah.
Question. So does it mean that we'll also have to kind of agree on a common
Yes.
error types?
Yeah, and a common way to communicate errors. Yeah, that will be great. So probably, yeah, that will be a breaking change for our parser and for all the parsers. So, but since this is gonna probably take time.
Yeah, it's gonna take time for sure. Yeah.
We can probably just release first version, and then on version 2. We will include this way of communicating the errors, which unless you are working on a tool that's parsing AsyncAPI for another purpose or something, like Solus is doing, for instance, unless you're working on something like this, you should not be affected. So yeah, actually, no. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's not even Solus will be affected because you are exporting to AsyncAPI, not importing from AsyncAPI.
Yeah.
So you should not be affected as well. I think we and probably that will be the only ones affected here, and MuleSoft as well.
Yeah, because in the generator, it's just going to be bumped to the new version, but it's not going to be a breaking change for generator. It's going to be only a breaking change for the parser.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and even yeah, I like to be releasing often, right? The fact that we're launching a stable version of the parser doesn't mean that we cannot release version 2 in, I don't know, 6 months or less. It's fine. I'm completely fine with that. The thing is that we will have to maintain also version 1, like, you know, security patches or whatever. We will have to maintain it, and then at some point sunset support for version 1. But yeah, we will have to be maintaining 2 versions. But yeah, I like the style. For instance, for these things on long-term support and the support of old versions, right? I like what Node.js is doing, for instance, that they provide long-term support for one version. The next version is not going to be long-term supported, like the even version, the even versions, even numbers are long-term supported, and then the odd are not, but not meaning that they will be supported probably 6 months or 1 year, but that they're Node.js, so we cannot do this. For us, it will be less for sure. And yeah, so you can keep iterating without the fear of breaking something. And then what Node.js says to every production adopters, is that you should adopt an even version for production, never an odd version, unless you're fine with it. But if you want long-term support for production, you should adopt 10, 12, 14, right? Not 13 or 11, right? So yeah.
So Fran, so I understood that Java Parser is doing by the team, MuleSoft team, right? But it is not yet open sourced.
Exactly. So they're working on this. They're gonna open source it. I'm pretty sure. I cannot guarantee because it's, I don't work for MuleSoft, but I'm pretty sure that they're gonna open source it, and they're fine with this. MuleSoft is a mostly open source company, or has a historic of open source contributions. So yeah, they will. I'm sure they will open source it. There's no point on.
So it would be better to wait for them to open source it instead of creating a new project as Java Parser, right?
I think so.
Depends at the end how much time you have to wait, because looking on those two issues, it can take them still several weeks even before.
Yeah. But
releasing.
You're not, several weeks, but you're not going to create a Java parser in a few weeks.
Yeah, but you can create a middle solution that will serve your purpose, and then.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, let's just chat with them and see if they can open source it before this is finished, right? Because we can probably help them finish this list. So it's easier.
Is there any timeline or any date that they will open source it? Because if most of the API gateways basically they developed their project using Java. So if they want to use the async API, so they must have this Java parser.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, based on this information, the information when it will be available as open source, probably API gateway providers can decide and they can rearrange their pipeline, right?
Yeah.
To give the support for async API.
Yeah, but I understand, but I already told them to open source it. That's all we can do so far from our side. Also, something that we were planning, but we're not working on this yet, is working on our Java parser ourselves. So yeah, that will be another solution. But depending on how good it is, the MuleSoft one, and how often this is fixed and maintained, and all these things, we will probably just advise people to adopt their parser if it's open source, of course. Otherwise.
Yeah, Fran, I guess what a suggestion there potentially is to let whoever know at MuleSoft. I don't know if it's Paul or who the contact is that knows about this, and let them know that, you know, there was interest on the call, and that potentially it sounds like, I'm sorry, is Mohammed is your first name, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That Mohammed and his company might be willing to like help contribute once it's open source. So maybe give them some incentive to open source it earlier, right?
Yeah.
Or
So
connect them. Yeah.
So Mohammed, remind me, you work for Software AG, right?
Yes. Yes, Fran.
Okay. Okay. So let's do one thing. Just ping us after the call, and let's see if we can arrange this with MuleSoft, and if we can find a solution, right? Because I think this is gonna. I mean, you can ping us on Slack maybe if you're there already. Are you on our Slack workspace already?
Yeah. I'm in Slack. Yeah.
Okay. So let's do this, and then we can find a solution. Either if it's you know, adopting the or convincing MuleSoft to open source it sooner, or creating our own Java parser, right? That we will maintain. So whatever works.
Okay, friend. Then I will probably ping you or Łukasz in the Slack.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, because I mean, sorry for that, but the thing is that we cannot do much more during the call. That's why.
Yeah. I can understand. Yeah. No problem.
Any other questions, topics?
No, I'm good. I figured I'd drop in and see what was going on, and I'm glad I did to hear that V1 is coming out soon of the generator and parser. So I'm good.
Yeah. I on my own cannot wait until it's done. I have to relax, run away from coding for a bit. Just need to finish this and finally do some documentation for generator.
That was literal, you know, Lucas. That was literal. You can't wait because you have to do it.
Exactly. So I'm speeding. Like yesterday, I was coding until 1 a.m. like the whole day, like crazy. Like I have to finish this one, then tomorrow another one, and maybe 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, and it's done. I have to rush. But yeah.
So you've been coding until 1 a.m. Because it's version 1, then version 2 you will be until 2 a.m. like this.
Yeah, that's how it scales.
Sorry for the bad joke.
So before we finish, kind of request to you guys, if you're already on our Slack, so please go to general channel, and there's a information from me about a new blog post we have from James on AsyncAPI blog. So if you can help out and vote up those two, the blog on Reddit and Hacker News, that would be awesome. Dankeschön. Auf Wiedersehen. Thanks for joining. Remember, in 2 weeks, we see each other again in the APAC friendly time zone.
Oh, yeah. At 8.
Oh, okay, so 2 weeks from now is APAC, and then 2 weeks later is this time again. Oh, okay.
So it's now always gonna be 8 a.m. UTC or 4 p.m. UTC.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I should switch this one.
At some point, I think we should start doing these weekly meetings, or this meeting weekly, right? Because otherwise, people from each of the areas, let's say, from each of the sites, like America and APAC zone, right? They will have to wait for 1 month until the next meeting, right?
To see our faces.
Sorry?
To see our faces, like waiting for 1 month to see our faces. That's
exactly. Europe, India, you know, this area more in the center are fine, but because you can join both probably, but yeah, Australia and America, it's gonna be hard for both to join all of them. So yeah.
So like officially now, closing. Thank you.
All right.
And see you in 2
Thanks,
weeks.
everyone.
Or see you on Slack.
Yep.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your vacation, Fran.
Thanks.